morning, Kimberly. So the last time that we met, you showed me some of the things that were like your published work, and then we talked about what you want to do from here, and you said you wanted to write a story to entertain, right? So tell me what you've been working on with getting ideas.
So this is like the main idea. A family gets lost in the desert,
Okay, cool.
and then they have to. So they went on a hike first, and then they got lost. And I just brought some like ideas of like what they had to go through in it.
Okay.
And then they have to find a secret map in a pyramid that's gonna help them get out of the
Okay.
desert. And then, but the pyramid is haunted, so it's kind of like hard to get through it to get the map.
Okay. So you've got some really good ideas here. So this is like your main idea, and I like how you have progressed through what happens to them, some of their experiences, how they're feeling, right? But then you've got a really good idea of how to, I didn't read this one, also run into a few travelers that tell them about a secret map. And so then that's where we introduce the secret map. And then you're going to have a lot of detail, you know, some fun ideas with what happens in the pyramid to get that map. So to go from here, you've organized this really well. I like how you've got this organized in kind of a spider map. So this week moving forward, I want you to pick, you know, start on a few of these, and it doesn't have to be in order of your story. We'll worry about how the story is organized. But from this point, you've got all these really great ideas, and as you look at these, you're going to have details come to your mind over certain ones. You're going to have ideas to make those more specific and put content in there. So as you look at these, whichever one kind of sticks out to you and makes your brain kind of go, oh, I know what I can do with that, start writing on that.
Okay.
You know, we won't worry about putting it all together and organizing it until you've got a few paragraphs written about different things that have some really good detail. And then we can talk about, you know, how you want it organized from there. But I think one of a really good step for writers is to kind of free write. And so you could pick maybe one of these ideas here one day and then just free write everything you think, what sparked you to write about the fact that they'll run into travelers that tell them about a secret map. Think about that, just free write on that, all of the things that could be put into the story about that part. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then pick another part another day. And then, you know, as you work through those, I mean, you can start composing your story, start putting it together before we meet again, if you get to that point. If you don't, that's okay. I was thinking about your idea for writing for entertainment. So I brought a book today. First of all, I should ask you, do you have any questions about this?
I don't think so.
And I do want to ask you, like, for this one that I mentioned, you know, do you have any ideas right off the top of your head about how will they run into those travelers?
Those travelers will probably be people who have been in the desert for a lot of years too, but know the desert more, and so that's how they tell them about it.
Okay.
And they run into the travelers by like, the travelers are like walking through, and then the family's just like sitting by a rock or something in the desert, and they walk through, and one of the family members asks them for help.
Okay. So I love how you have the family sitting there at the rock. How's the family feeling at that time?
Really sad because they don't know where to go.
They don't know where to go, and they've gone through these other things already, right? So have they kind of given up?
Kind of.
Yeah. And so the travelers kind of happen upon them. And how do they tell them about the map? Have you thought about that?
Not quite yet.
Okay.
But
Okay. like that. I like that. So, yeah, just start writing on each of these different ideas. And then next week we can kind of see where you're at. And if you need help organizing, and transitioning from idea to idea, we can talk about that. I do want to share with you, I'm reading a book right now called Out to Get You. Have you read this one before?
Mm.
It is an interesting book, but it's one that's a good example to entertain. Now this one it's called 13 Tales of Weirdness and Woe. So it has kind of intriguing, some of them are a little scary, not too scary though. But one of the fun things that I was reading this with my family the other day that we read about was just to entertain. I'll kind of give you an idea of how this author, so this one's called The Color of Ivy, and he started it out with this girl is at school, she finds this marker under her desk, and she asks the kids around and says, is this yours? And nobody claims it, but it's a really pretty color. She describes it as, she said, the marker was thin and glittery and greenish black, and she'd never seen anything quite like it. She bent and picked it up. It was warm, as if it had been out in the sun. She removed the cap, and its dark tip glistened. Bringing it to her nose, she smelled its ink. It was sweet like honey. I wish this were mine, Ivy thought. So her name is Ivy, and as the story progresses, this dark green marker, she decides to use it to just doodle, and she doodles Ivy with it. The fun part of the story as it progresses, and this is where the entertainment part comes in, is she doodles first on her hand. She wrote 3 leaves. She did a little ivy scroll and 3 leaves for her name, I-V-Y. And she's working on something at school, and she thinks, oh, I should start using that for my name. I think that my teacher would think it's clever. So she wrote 3 leaves on this ivy for I-V-Y. But then as it progresses, everywhere she uses it, the next day when she wakes up, she looks at her hand and is admiring those pretty leaves that she drew. There's 4 leaves. And then she checks everything that she had written on. She had labeled her notebooks, and she had labeled her stuffed animals and stuff, because she just loved writing with this marker. And everything had 4 leaves. She's like, wait, it's growing. So, I mean, you can see how you can, start with this idea, and then you can really take it anywhere, which I know you know that because you're a really good writer. But it's just kind of building that intrigue, and for an audience, for that entertainment factor, you want to give them little tidbits here and there, and then you kind of are going to tie it up at the end. And that's what we'll work on next time as we see all of these details that you come up with. We'll talk about organizing them and finding ways to make those transitions to kind of lead the reader through that story. Okay?
Okay.
Do you have any questions?
I don't think so.
Okay. And last, I was going to mention to you the other thing with your notebook, as you are writing, you may have other ideas come to your mind. And so I suggest you can use a little sticky note to just make a tab here in the back. And I would maybe do, 4 or 5 pages in the very back. Leave 4 or 5 pages. Put a little sticky note here and label it ideas. Because as writers, we always have ideas flowing through our heads, and you want a place to put those. Because you're working on this now, and you'll say, I want to remember this idea for something else. And so just create a spot for yourself for that. I'll leave those with you, and then we'll schedule another time, okay?
Okay.
Thanks, Kimberly.